Hello, welcome to the October edition of The Parish Line, a production of CGov, the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel, about the events, programs, and policies of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. On this month's program, we will check in on our Mosquito Control Department's efforts to prevent West Nile virus. We will learn about upgrades to the Burton Coliseum complex and visit our Animal Control Department for their Halloween event. First, the police jury has begun construction on the 2 solid waste drop-off centers that were part of last year's renewal of the garbage and road improvement tax. J.P. Booth has details.
As part of last year's road and garbage tax renewal, citizens also voted in 2 parish-wide drop-off sites. Assistant Director of Public Works Teresa Champeau tells us how the ball got rolling and when we can expect completion.
It really got rolling about 24 months ago. We began to do some research, what permitting requirements we would have to meet, what sizes we'd need to be looking at, and that sort of thing. So it really got kicked off approximately 2 years ago in that budget cycle. The last year budget cycle, we actually were able to get Riverboat gaming money to fund the construction, and so that was budgeted for the 2011 year. And then we rolled into beginning to design the sites and figure out what we needed, sizes and that type of thing of plots of land and where we might locate them. And we've recently broken ground on the west site about 2 weeks ago, and they're due to break ground this week on the east side. Both sites are expected to take approximately 60 days in construction. So that puts us towards the end of November, very beginning of December, when they'll be finalized, and then we'll have to get geared up with personnel, get our personnel trained, and hope to have them opened by mid-December.
Rather than purchase new property, the police jury was able to utilize space at the 2 existing parish barns.
They are located at our Public Works maintenance facilities. The one on the west side is on Post Oak and near the Post Oak Pavilion that we have. It's right behind the Post Oak Pavilion, if people are familiar with that area. On our west maintenance site, we've actually reduced our maintenance facility grounds to take in that site. And on the east side, it's at our east facility site, and that is on if you go down the road that's directly between Animal Services and Public Works maintenance sites, the convenience site will be at the end of that road, which is Swift Plant Road.
So what can and can't you bring to these 2 new drop-off sites? Champeau tells us that just about anything around your house will do.
We will be able to accept household garbage, minor vegetative waste from citizens' yards, cleaning up, clippings, that sort of thing. All of those things will be accepted. We'll also accept, like I said, swing sets, tires. We'll continue our tire collection. We do that at those sites now already, but we will incorporate that collection into these sites going forward. There are some limitations that the state places on us as far as hazardous goods, and those specific guidelines will be probably run in a campaign so that people understand what we can and can't accept. On a very limited basis, we'll be able to accept what they call household hazardous wastes, which might be some, 409, cleaning 409, or those types of bottles and that sort of thing. We would not be able to take extremely large amounts of that. That would be more indicative of a commercial institution. But your basic household trash and garbage and waste is acceptable.
And what about those pesky white goods? Do we still have to take out the motor and empty the Freon before bringing them in?
It will make those kinds of disposals very, very, very easy. They'll be able to bring them to us. And foreseeably, we would like to have motors and such removed ahead of time. But if there are citizens that don't have that availability, obviously it's going to be at our Public Works sites, and we will get the white goods prepared for recycling. If that means having to tape them or remove the motors or whatever the requirements are, if we get them and that's not done, then we're going to take care of it so that it gets disposed of correctly.
With the convenience of these sites, the police jury is expecting to see a decrease in roadside litter.
I'm hoping that the opening of these sites will prove a marked difference in our litter problems that we're seeing across the parish. We hope that citizens will see this as an opportunity for them to dispose of things properly instead of putting them on the roadsides or at dead-end roads, where we end up having to take time away from patching potholes or cleaning ditches or doing any of our regular work to go pick that stuff up so that it doesn't end up in the drainage. And it's a safety hazard. If you have stuff alongside the road, it creates an obstacle that if someone leaves the roadway, they could, be seriously injured. So we would prefer not to see that stuff on the roads, and much prefer to see it brought to us for proper disposal at the sites. And we're hoping that is the biggest impact that we see. From a standpoint of when we'll be opening, I think that may be a good thing for the entire community, is that you'll be able to bring all those Christmas boxes and wrappings and all that extra trash that everyone seems to have such a hard time getting rid of in December. That'll be an easy fix for us. We'll be able to accept those and compact them, smash them down, and be able to get that disposed of easily.
For the Parish Line, I'm J.P. Booth.
The drop-off sites are expected to be open by mid-December. On October 6th, the police jury approved funding for the purchase of 160 new horse stalls at the Burton Coliseum complex. Public Works Director Alan Wainwright told jurors the $177,000 project is to bring the parish complex up to standards needed to host the 2011 and 2012 Louisiana High School Rodeo Finals.
Well, the project is part of what was the police jury's obligation, if you would, to get the facility ready to host the 2012, 2013 high school rodeo finals and junior high rodeo finals. This project is the addition of 160 new stalls, horse stalls, to the facility. These stalls are also made in a way that they'll be utilized in the livestock show and at many other events out at the facility. So it's not just horse stalls. It's a lot more than that. When large events are looking for places to locate, one of the things that they're looking for is the ability to host and hold the horses in nice stalls overnight. Many of these events run through the weekends and several days, so that's a critical aspect on any checklist when you're going to try and secure one of these events. So it really puts Burton as a facility in a league of just a very few facilities in Louisiana, at least, that can host those kind of events.
The rodeo finals had been hosted by Calcasieu Parish for more than 50 years, but the event went elsewhere during the 1990s.
The high school rodeo finals has a rich history in Calcasieu Parish. It first was in the Sulphur, around where the high school is, then was moved to the Burton Coliseum in the 90s, or right around the 90s. And then ultimately was moved to another venue. It's been to a couple other venues. We're real proud of getting that event here. A lot of people worked really hard to secure that and put together a package to get that event here, and we're just really grateful to have it. It's estimated that the 2-year economic impact is about at $28 million, so a tremendous impact to our local economy. And an opportunity to continue getting that event for several more years.
Much of the Burton Coliseum complex was damaged by Hurricane Rita in 2005. The outdoor arena was destroyed. The upcoming project is one of the final efforts in restoring and upgrading the Burton facilities.
In the winter, we'll have the livestock shows and everything, so we have a few things we're getting ready for that. Then will be the high school rodeo later in the year. It does sort of cap a reconstruction of the outdoor rodeo arena there, which was obviously damaged during Hurricane Rita. Was rebuilt, reconstructed, expanded. It's an extremely nice facility and an integral part of us being able to have the necessary square footage and the overall facilities to attract this kind of event. Well, the facility itself, of course, it has the Burton Coliseum, and everyone's familiar with that. We have an outdoor rodeo arena that is tremendous. It has a section of it that allows the handling and holding of all the livestock rodeo animals that go on that come with a rodeo event. We have a tremendous amount of camper hookups and everything that's needed there for those people who travel. In town, we have the livestock arena that has more than enough square footage to host large events. Overall, that facility is very unique when it comes to Louisiana, and offers us a great opportunity to compete for these kinds of events and shows and rodeos. We'd love to see people come out and support it. Again, the Coliseum is a facility that the entire facility is owned by the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. They are putting their efforts into making sure that facility is maintained, used at the highest level, that our citizens can use it. The rates are really good. We encourage people with events to look at it and consider it when they're selecting. And just encourage everyone to come out to the rodeo, come out to the livestock shows, and see the youth, the high schools, and even younger elementary students. They work so hard on those projects. Come out and support them. Come out and support the community. That's what it's really all about.
The installation of the new stalls should be completed in time for the State Finals Rodeo, June 5th. Late summer and early fall have traditionally been the peak times for West Nile virus cases in the United States. Molly Morgan updates us on what our Mosquito Control Department is doing to try to prevent the disease.
Mosquitoes have always been a nuisance for those of us here in southwest Louisiana, but with West Nile virus, they seem to be much more of a nuisance than ever. Director for the Calcasieu Parish Mosquito Control, Scott Willis, explains.
The virus itself is in birds, and as we know, only the female mosquito bites. So when she takes a blood meal from the bird, then she picks up the virus. And then the virus has to amplify in the mosquito itself. So it takes 1 to 2 weeks for that to occur. It has to multiply, has an incubation period, and when it gets more, it grows inside and migrates to the salivary glands of the mosquito. And so when they seek another blood meal a couple of weeks later, then that's when the transmission occurs. They're salivating a little bit while they're blood feeding.
New mosquitoes are not a carrier of the virus, and there are some that won't carry any diseases at all.
We had a human case that showed up here in Calcasieu Parish, and sometimes when you see that in the newspaper, and it came out right when we were having an outbreak of salt marsh mosquitoes. And so you could go out in your yard during the daytime and you're getting 20 or 30 mosquitoes landing on you, and you're looking in the newspaper and you're seeing West Nile virus human case. Well, those are brand new mosquitoes that just came off migrating from, out of the marsh areas. And so they haven't had time to become a vector of a disease or anything yet, because they haven't been out to get a blood meal or doing anything. Plus another thing too, salt marsh mosquitoes that we have in a big outbreak like that are not the main vectors of West Nile virus. It's mainly Culex mosquitoes that vector the virus. 99% of all the positives that we have in Louisiana and mostly across the nation are Culex, a different species. We have like 60 different species of mosquitoes in Louisiana, and sometimes people think mosquitoes, disease, but not all mosquitoes can transmit diseases. Some are not good vectors of a disease, like not all mosquitoes can transmit dog heartworm. Some can maybe blood feed on a dog and pick up the microfilaria, but they're just something about that species of mosquito is not biologically good with the life cycle of dog heartworm, so it doesn't vector dog heartworm. It can't. Like another example is malaria. There's only Anopheles mosquitoes. There's over 3,000 mosquitoes in the world. Only Anopheles mosquitoes can transmit malaria. All others could feed on a human and pick up malaria, but they can't vector it. So that's one thing sometimes we forget.
Mosquito Control will monitor for the virus very closely. One
of the main ways that we monitor here in our parish, and most of the other mosquito control districts in Louisiana and across the nation we call it mosquito pools. And what we do is we have certain traps that we can set out, and I think I brought a net, and so what we'll do is we set these certain traps out, and we'll have a net like this, and we'll collect the female mosquitoes and we bring these back in the lab, and they're separated out by the species, and then we put them in vials and we send them off to LSU at the vet school. They have a diagnostic lab and they do the testing for us, and they'll look for the presence of the virus through like DNA testing, and then we'll get our results back. We send them in every week, and on Fridays we get our results back if we've had any positives and what type of mosquito, where, and things like that.
For almost every illness, there's an incubation period, and this is true for West Nile virus as well.
The timeline is different, so you have a couple of weeks for the mosquito to be able to vector, and then if a person is bitten and it's transmitted, the person has an incubation period too. So it may be almost a couple of weeks before you would show symptoms. You know, there are different types of infections. Most people just get what we call West Nile fever, which means that you would have like a flu-like symptom, which means you ran a fever and you had some flu-like symptoms and your immune system had a cold. You get over it, you know, and so that's what would happen. But see, if you think about that, the mosquito picked the virus up from a bird, a couple of weeks, bites a person, then it might be 7 to 12 days or so before you show any symptoms or anything, you know. But most people don't show any symptoms and there's also asymptomatic where people just happen to be at the doctor and doing blood work and your antibodies show up that you've been exposed. So, but that's the most common type of infection.
Preventive measures are always taken to control mosquito outbreaks.
Well, what we normally do when we do get a positive in a mosquito, and of course now you got to remember animals, you know, now horses have vaccines, but whenever we do get a positive, we always will spray more in that area to reduce mosquito populations, because you want to reduce the chances of a person or an animal being bitten, you know, by an infected mosquito. And sometimes when populations are low, because you have to remember it's the older mosquitoes in a population that are able to transmit a disease, because they have to go through that incubation period and have some time. So even though that happens, that they are the older ones, we always, you know, do spray. We do aerial treatments and truck treatments in areas where we picked up positives.
Willis explains what residents can do to help control mosquito population.
One of the things we always tell people is, because it is a Culex mosquitoes around your home, it is important to not have containers that hold water, because Culex mosquitoes, like, they lay their eggs on top of the water in an egg raft, and then they'll hatch out in an old bucket or in an old wheelbarrow, a tire or something like that. So it's still important to empty containers and things around your home, and we always advocate that if you're going to be out in the evenings, you know, to use repellents and wear proper clothing and to prevent mosquito bites.
You can help control the mosquito population by getting rid of containers that will hold water. For the Parish Line, I'm Molly Morgan.
So far in 2011, there have been only 4 documented cases of West Nile virus here in Calcasieu Parish. You are watching the Parish Line, a production of CGov, about the events, programs, and policies of the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. The parish has the responsibility to protect the safety of citizens living near distressed structures, buildings that may be in unsafe conditions due to fire, hurricanes, or neglect. Margaret Higgins tells us how the parish decides when a structure needs to be condemned.
Calcasieu Parish Code Enforcement Supervisor David Robinson says the primary concern in condemning distressed structures is safety.
Most of the time we'll have a phone call from one of the citizens, and they'll be complaining to us about a abandoned or unsafe structure in their neighborhood, and we will send a code enforcement officer out to take a look at the structure, and if it is unsafe, we will post it unsafe.
What constitutes an unsafe structure?
We go by the housing code, and the housing code is very broad. When we go out, we look for if it has broken windows, if it's open to the public, if it has rotten floor joists, boards, the ceiling could be The roof could be caving in. Just a structure that's been basically not maintained, a structure that there's just, a lot of termite damage and things like that. That's what we look for. A structure should be, secure and sound and safe, and a lot of these structures are not safe for people to inhabit them.
Robinson says the structures that they look at are unoccupied and gives a step-by-step process once they deem a structure unsafe and should be condemned.
After we go out and post a structure unsafe, we then send the property owner what we call a courtesy letter, and we notify them and let them know that they have a structure that they need to do something to, and we give them 30 days to either repair the structure if it can be repaired or demolish it. After 30 days, we'll go back. If the structure is still there, then we would then start the condemnation procedure, which takes approximately 3 months. We have to go through a lot of legal avenues, and then it'll eventually go to condemnation hearing, and at that time the owner of the property can go before the police jury and state to the jury why this structure should not be condemned. It does take a majority vote by the jury to condemn a structure.
If a structure is unoccupied, it doesn't mean it's unsafe.
Just because no one lives in a structure, it doesn't mean that the structure is condemnable. What we would advise to property owners who have structures that no one is living in at the time, we would advise that they keep the structure secure, keep the grass cut, keep the yard clean of any kind of junk or debris. Just make sure no one can get into the home. That's the problem with these vacant homes. You have children going in them, you have vagrants, and there's even some that have drug activity.
The parish is still using the same ordinances that were on the books prior to Hurricane Rita. To find out more information, see the Code of Ordinances at the parish website, cppj.net. For the Parish Line, I'm Margaret Higgins.
If you see an unsafe abandoned structure, don't enter, keep children away, and report criminal activity to local law enforcement. Calcasieu Animal Services is getting in the Halloween spirit. Here is CGov's Jessica Williamson.
Calcasieu Animal Services is celebrating Halloween with an event featuring reduced adoption fees. Similar events have raised awareness and adoption rates.
Our numbers compared to 2010 each month have increased by 30%. It averages 30% that we've increased. So the adoptions are doing really well, and events like the Halloween and the Adopt-a-thon we had back in April have really helped out in bringing attention and awareness to the animal shelter and adopting pets and just trying to get the word out there. And also our Facebook page has helped a lot, and people can go on there and see pictures of the pets and ask direct questions and get a quick answer without having to come in or call.
Events are great at raising awareness about shelter pets, but it's the daily contact on the shelter's Facebook page that keeps adoption on nearly 1,000 followers' minds.
The Facebook has made a huge difference. We have right now I think a little over 800 fans, and people share stuff off our website, off our Facebook page all the time, and they send it to their friends, and just, word gets out. And it also helps a lot for getting lost pets reunited with their owners. People post when they've found a pet, when they've lost a pet, and it gets circulated throughout Facebook, and it's a really good way to, with people having their cell phones on them all the time, they can take a picture of a dog they find in their neighborhood, post it on Facebook, tell them the location, and they can go on there and check. So it's really good for pet owners to become a fan of our page, so they can, you never know when something's going to happen. You can lose your pet, they can run off, and it'll help you reconnect.
Another great tool to find forever homes for shelter pets has been local media. Pets featured become very in demand. One in particular was Olivia, a miniature Yorkie that had potential adopters lined up to take her home.
We had probably like 15 calls about the dog, like immediately. We had people here at 8 in the morning waiting until noon to adopt her. Every Monday we go on the sunrise show, and then every Thursday I go on at the midday show. And we bring a different pet each time, so it really helps. And they put it on their Facebook page, a picture of the pet and everything, and how to connect and how to get in touch with us.
When considering adopting a shelter pet versus a pet from a breeder, Gardner says that every pet that comes into the shelter is thoroughly checked and spayed or neutered, a guarantee you won't get from a breeder.
We have, a lot of expert people with behavior, and we health check all the dogs. You can come, pay one fee, your vetting's taken care of, and then you get to go. You'll still have to take them to the vet, but they've had all their first shots, all their yearly shots, and all that stuff.
To get more information on adopting a pet and to keep informed of adoption specials, find Calcasieu Parish Animal Services on Facebook or log on to cppj.net. For the Parish Line, I'm Jessica Williamson.
The reduced adoption fee for dogs lasts through the month of October. That's the Parish Line for the month of October. Thanks for watching. For more information on any of these stories or to see the program online, visit our website at cppj.net.